So when I was in high school, I was introduced to this thing, maybe you've heard of it, marijuana. Where is this in Judaism? My name is Yoseph Leib. I am the author of Cannabis, Chassidis, the ancient and emerging Torah of drugs. I was really trying to get a sense of what the good gospel and the good religion that I was committed to was, as opposed to the flawed idealism of the Orthodox Judaism I grew up with, where I don't think they really had a good sense of how to deal with the world. And when I first started smoking, I was actually amazed at what kind of things did become clear. And I became very curious in my attempt to reconcile the good Judaism that I really was so sure had to be out there. So I went to Jerusalem after high school to go and try to find the secret lost Torah of marijuana. Hey. Howdy. Amigo mío, de los que están recordándome. Unos amigos míos que están recordándome para esta cosa. Están aquí. This is my grandmother Lucy. She is wonderful. I had to not ever forget Spanish because she actually speaks no English. ¿Quieren saber de dónde vino? ¿Por qué habla español yo? My grandmother's from Ecuador. My mother's also from Ecuador. My mom married my dad. She was teaching Spanish to law students who were studying in order to work with poor Spanish-speaking communities. And they just connected very strongly, and it worked out really nicely. It's so great to speak Spanish in New York. It's so great to be able to. It's like, it's very heartbreaking to me to be in Israel and Jerusalem and not speak Arabic, because I'm so used to being able to talk to people. I feel like if you don't speak someone's language, they're not really convinced that you're human. They're not necessarily very convinced you actually have a soul or that you really care about them. And there's a certain truth that if you don't speak someone's language, how much could you care about them, you know? So it's really a blessing in the US to have grown up with Spanish. My grandmother's not Jewish, she's quite Catholic. Although I don't think she thinks we're damned. In my whole life, I have no recollection of her ever trying to baptize me covertly or anything. And here I am eating her food. Haha. It's a custom I have with my father, actually, to generally, if the food is vegetarian, to eat it off their plates. It's actually a way I've been able to chart some of my religious development, is how I've been able to eat at my grandmother's house, when, how much I felt like I had to bring down plates and dishes, and how much did not. Thank God she makes good rice and beans. The standard of what's acceptable food-wise is a little divorced from the standard of what's actually good food-wise. Just a little, you know? Not necessarily, not inherently, but tragically, by and large. To the degree that a restaurant in Jerusalem has to be more careful to make sure that the cabbage never, ever could have had a bug on it than it is that the cabbage was grown in real soil or has actual nutrients. To the degree that that's a bigger priority in kashrut is the degree to which I'm alienated from that kind of kashrut and really feel compelled to trust the brown rice and beans my grandmother makes more than the stuff in the Hamish restaurant down the road. This is my wife, Edith. My lovely wife, Edith. This is my charming daughter, Haley. Rice and beans? Yum. There are times sometimes where I just feel like this yawning emptiness where I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something important and I feel like I'm not doing anything. And then I'm like, oh, you have a daughter, I can go raise her. Why don't I go engage her and play with her or just watch her and hang out with her? And that's actually pretty effective. So that's kind of nice. Quiets the existential terrors in my head. And she's just so cool. She's very charming. She just like talks to strangers and
So nice.
makes a lot of eye contact and says cute things. I think being a father is ideally a lot about listening for what's genuinely needed. I feel like a certain degree of being able to get out of the way when there's a need for that. That probably winds up being a lot of it eventually, but not necessarily so much of it right now. The best thing a father can do is like invite him along, but make very clear, if you don't come with me, it's really okay. If you don't want to do what I want to do, it's really okay. And that's much better than saying, this is who we are and this is what we do.
Are you a traditional Jewish father?
I don't work. My wife works. So that way, yes, my wife is the one who's like studied and goes out and makes money. And I cook. Although I also go out on missions. I also take the baby out on missions. I'm also the adventurer in the family. Kaylee, you want to come for the walk? We're going to assorted independent bookstores in Williamsburg that have expressed interest in carrying Cannabis, Chassidis, and we're going to bring copies for them to consign. All right. This way.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, this is cool. Why don't you give us 5 for now? Do you have a card that we can get to you? Contact?
It's right over here, contact info.
Okay, cool, great.
I'll make me a little receipt just so I remember.
No problem.
Do you think it's wrong to expose a child to drugs like that?
Aha! In my experience, the friends I've had that were most open about their weed smoking around their kids smoke the least weed, because like my son, my dad does. I don't want to do that. The ones who kept it quiet, their kids wound up getting into it because they thought they were getting away somewhere. I do think it's wrong to expose kids to practices without giving a sense of what is safe or unsafe use. I went to Jerusalem after high school trying to find a tradition of counsel about how to smoke marijuana better according to the Torah. For all the study I've done, I don't think I've really mastered how to make the situation inherently right. You know, it's a lot of sensitivity. I think mixed with sensitivity, they can be really helpful for a direct experience of God, yeah. And I don't know how to make it safe for sure. I don't know how, besides telling people to trust themselves and trust their intuition about what feels really right and really wrong in a place, and what feels, on the other hand, not being doomed by your own personal sense of what feels right and wrong into never trying anything that you're not sure about.
But you're nervous telling people to do drugs?
I don't tell people to do drugs. I tell people what drugs have done for me. I think halakha in the future cannot be, you should do this. It can only be, here's what I did. Here's what happened when I did this. Drugs have occasionally let me hear my own voice better. In hearing my own voice better, I heard something sometimes that seemed like it was bigger than just me. How is Moses special? It's that Moses is so willing to be Moses so completely that God is able to speak through him. And that when you're so willing to be you so completely, so actually, so authentically speaking your voice and speaking the things that are true to you, you might notice that something bigger than you is speaking through you.